Testing? Testing? Oh, okay. We are good. All right. It seems like every time I pop into OBS and I need to change the settings on my uh, avatar here. Um, oh, okay. It looks like I need to perform another system update on my Switch. Okay, fine. Whatever. Um, so Dragon Con. Um, it was an experience. I have never been before. It's not that I haven't been to big conventions. I have. I've been to PAX East, although it was so long ago. I don't remember a lot about PAX East except for the vendor hall. And oh, it looks like Tales of the Shire needs to update too. Well, I kind of hope that they're going to fix some of the glitches that I experienced the last time. Anyway, I it it was an experience. So, I was asked to go with a friend who she needed somebody she could rely on to go with her to Dragon Con to basically drive. I'm not I'm not going to go into the whole drama involving that, but suffice to say, I rented I rented a car. But I got a brand new Prius, by the way, and let me just say, the 2025 Prius is kind of nice. For long-term driving, the seats are kind of uncomfortable. You do need to get out and stretch and to work your legs a little bit, otherwise your back and your butt do get a little uncomfortable. But driving that Prius was kind of incredible. Um, and it honestly, when you have a partially self-driving car that will actually help turn and maintain your lane when you're driving for 14 hours straight, I highly recommend. I just, I highly recommend if you are doing any long driving that you get yourself a car that can help you out with that. I just I'm just saying. So that was kind of great. Um, it's Driving wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of construction, but because Dragon Con was also Labor Day weekend, coming back, there was almost no traffic whatsoever because all of the traffic was happening just before Labor Day weekend was happening, which is actually why we ran into some traffic issues going to Atlanta. Because there was basically some construction kind of wrapping up what they were going to be doing for that week. So we ran into some construction delays, particularly in Ohio, I think it was. Yeah, Ohio. But honestly, the most of the drive was completely fine. There was traffic in Atlanta proper. Again, only when we were coming into the city. We were also coming into Atlanta at like 6 p.m. So it that made things interesting. Um, while we were on Route 75, I don't I don't remember what state we were in. I don't remember if we were in Kentucky or Georgia by that, but I'm pretty sure we might have been still in Kentucky. When I was genuinely concerned for the rental when there was a crash on the opposite lane, but debris flew. There was just this giant pop, an explosion. There's smoke. I look in the side mirror and there's just smoke pouring up. And And my friend, who was kind of half dozing in the seat next to me, was just like, what the hell was that? Because it sounded like we had actually kind of been hit in the back by a piece of debris. I don't think we were, because there were no scratches on the car. I think it just missed us. But that was an experience. So that was literally just driving to Atlanta, Georgia. Mind you, we were driving on the Tuesday before the con was even scheduled to a Tuesday? I don't think we were driving on. No, we started on Tuesday and it was into Wednesday. Right. Okay. So originally what we were going to do is we were going to spend a couple of days on the road. That was the original plan. Unfortunately, my friend had to work that Monday because her job was expecting a giant shipment that she was going to have to receive. A shipment, by the way, that was canceled because tariffs. And so she was actually at work for nothing. So we only had 1 day to drive. So I had to do the 14-hour drive straight without, because originally we were going to get like motels or hotels along the way at places and do touristy things. We were literally going to do touristy things along the way, but that completely happened. So we're like, oh, that, you know what, that's fine, whatever. We'll just do touristy things on the way back. Well, that didn't work out either. So a week before we were going to leave for Dragon Con, I was in the hospital. Not going to get into it, but it was stressful. I was legitimately concerned that I was not actually going to be able to go to Dragon Con. I had an absolute boatload of tests done. We have determined what the issue is. And I am not okay, but I am being treated and in the process of scheduling to fix what is wrong. So that all happened before Dragon Con. So the next closest day that I could get to see my doctor before she went on vacation was literally the day after Dragon Con ended. The 3rd. So I had to schedule my consultation with my doctor in person the day after Dragon Con ended, which meant we couldn't even hang out for closing festivities at Dragon Con on Monday. We had to leave. So so it was we left the hotel that morning, Monday morning. By the way, the drive was amazing on Labor Day. There was no traffic. There was nobody on the roads. It was kind of great. So coming back, it was an experience. There was no traffic. Of course, no construction because it's Labor Day weekend. It was just smooth sailing. There were a lot of trucks on the road, and there were a lot of trucks at all of the stops along the way. There were states that actually allowed trucks to be able to pull over. I think Ohio was one of the very few that actually legally allow truck drivers to use exits and such as kind of like emergency stops, so that if they're falling asleep behind the wheel, they can literally pull over, and they can legally do so. In a lot of states, they can't do that. They have to find truck stops and rest areas. Almost all the rest areas were completely filled with trucks. It was kind of crazy. So that is coming to and from Dragon Con. Let me tell you something. If you have a choice to not do a 14-hour straight drive, don't do it. Don't do it. I just don't. It's kind of, it's not great. Do not recommend. I came home. I didn't even take anything out of the car. I just parked the car and then just came into the house and I went, I'm napping. And then I napped for a few hours. And then I went, okay, well, I guess I need to unpack the car and then return it. Before literally later that afternoon, I had to go see my doctor so we could make a plan about fixing what's wrong with me. So first day of Dragon Con is not actually the first day of Dragon Con. So during the afternoon, they kind of start the setup for Dragon Con, and there are people there already. Dragon Con has not started yet, and there are people, which I knew. I knew this was a thing, and that's actually why we were there. We were there a day early to just figure out. Excuse me. We had deep dish pizza for dinner. It was delicious. So, first day, we're at the Marriott, which, by the way, it is in fact the Marriott in downtown Georgia at Peachtree Center. It is the Marriott that is featured in a lot of different Marvel pieces, including the Loki TV series, and there's a reason why. I could not physically look straight up into this giant tower because my vertigo would kick in. So the only way I was actually able to look into the into the tower was to actually just use the camera on my phone. It was a thing. How do I describe it? It was actually, honestly, it was kind of great. The building itself was lovely. I don't have anything to say against the Marriott. It honestly, it's a gorgeous hotel. I can see why it's featured in a lot of various movies. The theme of Dragon Con, involved the carpet. So apparently the carpet in this hotel was removed and replaced. At least the vast majority of it was. And it's kind of weird. It's just the carpet itself seems to have kind of created its own I don't really want to say cult. It was a joke that it was a cult. Well, let me put it that way. There was a lot of for the South being a very religious Christian location. There was a lot of tongue-in-cheek religions at Dragon Con. I just want to say that there were cults for everything. There was a UPS cult that with a pope. There was a FedEx. There were worshippers of the goddess Joanne. Now that her temples are abandoned. There was I legitimately wait. At one point there was a shrine that had been built in one of the hallways between the hotels. That probably should not have been there, and if a fire marshal had seen it, would probably have lost their mind. It started as just a cardboard tower of oh shoot, the name of Sauron's tower and in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Ah, dang it. Not Orthanc. Orthanc is Saruman's. Brain not functioning. Anyway, it started as that, with like a paper eye at the very top of this cardboard box tower, and then the entire hallway. It was just that was in a corner, and then by the end, the entire hallway was just filled with shrines, various shrines of all types. There was a shrine to the Demon Boys of K-pop Demon Hunters. There was a shrine to Joanne's. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what else was there. There was a shopping cart that had stuff in it. I don't even remember where the shopping cart came from. It was a red cart, kind of like a Target cart, but it wasn't a Target cart. I legitimately don't remember what it was. And it was this one side of this hallway had just turned into like people just built shrines. And it became a place for you to leave trinkets and pick up trinkets, which is another thing about Dragon Con that I learned about. So in preview night, where they basically kind of have like an opening party for Dragon Con, the trinket trade begins. I knew about this. I was not aware that it has not only its own customs, but that people take it very seriously. You carry with you trinkets. I had trinkets. I literally bought trinkets to trade. In my downtime at the hotel, I made more trinkets because I actually brought materials with me. I brought a bunch of hair clips and puffy stars and colors that I did not personally want, but came in like a multi-pack color thing. So I literally made hair clips and pins and all sorts of things with various crafting supplies that I brought with me to Dragon Con. I literally spread out all of the supplies on my bed at night, and I would be like take a couple of hours to literally just make new trinkets for the next day. And that was a thing. I didn't have a whole lot to trade that night. My friend, however, was prepared. She literally had a case of sprouts. So sprouts were also a thing that people had that year. I saw an Eris cosplayer who had flower sprouts. So sprouts are just little tiny hair clips that just have little green foliage sticking out of the top of them. They kind of like, they might look like a Pikmin sprout, only they're tinier. And so the opening night, so many people had these sprouts, including my friend, and it became a thing where there was an Eris cosplayer that had a basket of flower sprouts. There were a couple of other people I saw that just had the green sprouts. I loved the sprouts personally. I actually I wish I had taken a picture of my Wooloo cosplay, because I was actually Wooloo. I love cosplaying as Pokemon because it's something that I can easily do. I can create a costume that is just sort of invokes the Pokemon without doing like a full like fursuit or something. Have a wig. And in my case of my Wooloo, I used an old wig that I have had for 30 years, and I wish I was joking. I literally had that wig for 30 years. I bought it when I was actually pretty young and fairly new to YouTube, not YouTube, to eBay. This was when Amazon was still selling mostly just books, even though they at one point they got into the auction thing too. Which, anybody else remember Amazon auctions? Because I do. And I had just never used it. I have been hanging on to this stupid white wig for decades, and I had never used it, and I spent a lot of money on it. This was at the dawn of the modern cosplay sort of just shopping experience. Like this was when getting a wig was extremely difficult. Like there are just stores on like Amazon that do nothing but sell wigs and do nothing but sell cosplay wigs, sometimes for very specific characters. This was at a time when you did not have that, not in America. You had to scour eBay and hope that an importer had a wig that was close enough to what you needed, and you bought it. And this was at a time where wigs were, and I'm not talking like expensive lace front wigs that today you might spend $50, $60, $70 on. No. These are, in some cases, very crappy, costumey wigs that you might buy at Spirit Halloween, but you're not paying $25. You're paying $50, $60, $70 for an import wig, because that's all you could get. So I finally used that wig to make Wooloo, and I had like a couple of the little sprouts sticking up in my white hair, and it was so cute. I kind of wish I had an apple with me though, as kind of an homage to the Aardman advertisement for their upcoming Pokemon show. I love Aardman Animation Studio so much, and I wish I had gotten some pictures of my Wooloo. I wore Wooloo that night after we had gone to the hotel. We had scoped it out. We went, okay, this is definitely something that we're going to want to come back to the party dressed properly. So both my friend and I were in cosplay. I wore Wooloo a couple of times during the weekend because it was a comfy and cozy cosplay. And let me tell you something. when you're in Atlanta, Georgia, in August, it's a little toasty. So weirdly, the weekend, it was actually kind of coolish for August. It was only kind of in the mid 80s, and I literally do actually mean only in the mid 80s. I was genuinely concerned that it was going to be like 100 degrees, people roasting in the sun, and like, it's not as though there weren't ambulances that were constantly getting summoned to various locations at Dragon Con, but I honestly thought it was going to be worse. So preview night, it's just people hanging out. That's all it is. Off on one side. So the party takes place on the Pulse level of the Marriott. There is a bar. There's a restaurant that opened up fairly late. I think it wasn't open when we got there. The doors were closed. I even took pictures of the doors because I thought the doors architecturally were really kind of neat. I love neat architecture. And by the way, I do have kind of like a photo thing of where are you? There you are. Okay, my socials. On Instameta, I am Milo Geekery. There's my Blue Sky profile. All of my links are also available on Twitch. Just go to profile and you can find them. Just click on the linky links. But here they are. On YouTube, it's also at My Little Geekery. It's youtube.com/mylittlegeekery. Where I have shorts of some of my video. I took a lot of video purposefully to make shorts out of, because I kind of wanted to have bits and pieces of this is what the DragonCon experience is like. So if you have any interest in my pictures, the vast majority of my still pictures are going to be on Blue Sky. I actually have like a whole hashtag DragonCon thing on my profile. But there are shorts that I have been releasing on Instagram and YouTube, and just to kind of like show this is kind of like the DragonCon experience. My big one from YouTube is actually you want to know what the want to know what the crowds look like? Well, and there's literally just a wall to wall packed hallway at the hotel. And someone in the comments said, "Oh wow, that smell must be interesting." Yeah, the smell was interesting. Most of the time, it was fine. But when you get tens of thousands of people and sometimes very, very warm costumes in 85-degree weather while the sun is shining, some of those tunnels especially the tunnels between the hotels, could get really toasty. And sometimes the smell was not great. I admit myself that my allegedly 72-hour deodorant antiperspirant definitely did not last 72 hours. And I would have to refresh during the middle of the day. Thing is, a lot of people basically spend all day at the con and don't ever like go back to their rooms or anything, so they don't have time to refresh. We did. We took time to basically kind of go back to our hotel room, decompress during the middle of the day when we had a chunk of time to do that, and we would do that. But opening night was certainly interesting. Anyway, I mentioned Pulse very specifically. So the party was taking place on the Pulse level. There was like a DJ who was spinning some tunes. It was kind of nice. It started with basically just soundtracks, mostly Marvel and Disney soundtracks, because of course it was the Marriott and Loki. So that it kind of started with that, and it switched to nerdy dance stuff as the night went on. But it was very chill throughout most of the late afternoon. And off to one side, I noticed that there was a group of people that were just sitting and crafting. There were pieces of colored vinyl being laid out on the ground, and with people with scissors cutting away, and I'm like, no, okay, what's happening over here? And it was kind of a giant craft project, and they recreated the rainbow crosswalk, memorializing the Pulse shooting on the Pulse level of the Marriott, and that was beautiful. I took a picture of the in progress. I actually didn't feel comfortable taking a photo after it was finished. It didn't feel right. But it was finished before the end of the night, and there were some sentiments that were left. It was kind of beautiful, honestly. I I legitimately didn't have the heart to take a picture. It it was beautiful. But the party throughout the rest of the night was just it was just a bunch of nerds vibing. That's it. That's all it was. It was it was like an impromptu pajama party. There were a bunch of people. It was you were supposed to come in Kimiguri. My friend did. I did not. I was like, look, I'm sorry. It's still 80 degrees outside. I'm not wearing a giant fleece onesie. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. Not that I couldn't have. But I'm like, nope. Gonna, I'm gonna be wearing a cosplay. I'm gonna be white. I'm gonna be, I would have been a Pokemon anyway. I probably would have just gotten an Eevee onesie, and worn that. But it was just a bunch of people trading trinkets. They just pie. There were these like little stands in the middle of tables, and people would just pile things on them. Sometimes it was ribbons, sometimes it was little tiny plastic figures, sometimes it was stickers, sometimes it was beaded bracelets. Beaded bracelets are a whole thing too that get traded at conventions. Um, and it was and but 3D printed stuff was huge. Everybody like I there was a Riddler cosplayer, like a Adam West era Batman Riddler cosplayer. He had little 3D printed trinkets. He had a little charm, a Riddler charm he gave me. Because he asked me what I would prefer, either a coin or the charm. I was like, oh no, I love the charm. I absolutely love the charm. By that point, I had decided that I was literally going to make a charm bracelet with all the trinkets that I got from Dragon Con this year. And he's like, you know what? Take the coin anyway. Because I chatted him up. We had a nice talk about Batman villains, and specifically Riddler. Because I honestly I love the Riddler as a Batman villain. Like it I, just love the Riddler. There are quite a few Batman villains that I actually truly appreciate. The Riddler is one of them. Poison Ivy is another. Um, and the two green guys, and it was just you're just hanging out with nerds. You're just vibing with nerds. You're trading trinkets. You're leaving trinkets on tables for other people to pick up. You're picking up trinkets left by other people. It's a whole thing. And that was just there were areas where people would actually set up trading spots for trinkets. Um, and I took pictures of a lot of cosplayers because it's not that there weren't a lot of cosplayers that night. There were. There were some great Mario Brothers cosplayers. One of them was a Mario who was carrying around like a little Luigi shrine. He was kind of dressed like a punk like post-apocalypse Mario. There were a few post-apocalypse Mario Brothers characters that I saw, which was kind of interesting because a lot of the cons around me, they tend to try to be as screen accurate as possible. There's not a lot of wiggle room with that. And I just truly appreciated how there were not only were there cosplayers of every age at Dragon Con, which was fantastic, but there were so many unique and interesting cosplays that were just mashings of things together. And there were characters from shows that you never really see out in the wild anymore. Like at one point at the party, I turned around and there was a clinger behind me, And I do mean Maxwell Klinger from MASH, wearing a pink gown, white pumps, white fur stole, and had a reproduction of the signpost at MASH. He was carrying that around with a giant cigar sticking out of his mouth. And I just was stunned. I had turned around and there's just Klinger behind me. And I literally aloud just went, Klinger? Because I was so stunned. I was not prepared to just come across a cosplayer for a show from like almost 50 years ago. I was not prepared for that. Just MASH character. I was like, oh, okay. Not that I haven't been tempted to do a radar myself, because I actually have a proper radar teddy bear, because I do, and I still can't believe I actually found one of these things, because they're kind of illegal. They're illegal for thrift stores to sell and stuff, but if the thrift store isn't particularly picky about these things, you can occasionally find stuffed animals that are made with materials that are verboten. And I have been tempted to do a radar cosplay, but nonetheless. So it's just, there are cosplays everywhere that there are mashings to get. There were so many Predators that just were, look, the designs were so unique, and there was one whose tentacle hair was just straight up insulation tubing, and you could tell there was nothing hiding that fact, and it was so good. It's just layers of different types of foam to create this costume, and it was just, I was like, this craftsmanship is just so good. Like, was it costume contest worthy? Absolutely not. There's no way this raw freaking tubing would have gotten you anywhere in a costume contest. But you know what? I appreciated that it was just straight up, just insulation tubing, just with little bits and bobs attached to it to give it a little more dimension and interest. Which was then like attached to like a headband or something, like underneath the mask that went over the face. It was so good. There were so many different Predators that looked so good. And hats off to the Warhammer to the Warhammer members of the Warhammer Legion who were wearing the mecha suits. Guys, you were amazing, honestly. I don't know how any of you were actually able to do anything in those giant bulky suits. My God, hands off to you, honestly. Fantastic. And it's just music and vibing. And then opening day, we actually did very little, because there's not a lot to do on opening day at DragonCon. Essentially what happens is that you're just kind of expected to get your badge and just figure out where stuff is. That's it. The first day of DragonCon, you don't even have a vendor's hall. The vendor's hall doesn't open until like Friday, which I thought was weird. Like, what do you mean the vendor's hall doesn't open until Friday? The vendor's hall, it's like a 5-day weekend event, and the vendor's hall is only open for 3 of those days? Okay. Yeah, sure, I guess. So we didn't really do a whole lot on Friday at all, which you would think would just... It's kind of, or Thursday. Thursday we didn't do a whole lot at all. We stood in line for hours to get our badges. By the way, we need to talk about something. So at a big con, you are going to stand around for hours in lines. It's inevitable. If you're waiting for a panel or you're getting something signed or whatever, you're gonna be waiting. You're gonna be waiting for a while. And there's no place to sit. Even when you're in one of the hotels, there is no place to sit. That was the thing I noticed most about the Marriott. There's no seating anywhere. The Hyatt is exactly the same way. The Marriott and the Hyatt are attached to one another via tunnels, and they're also just across. You can literally just cross the street if you really want to. There's no place to sit down at all. Anywhere. There are no chairs. And you don't really realize that there are no chairs until you have been standing for like 6 hours straight. And you have literally not been able to sit down that entire time. And then you go, wait a minute, there actually is no place to sit down. And a lot of people, mostly the younger folks, they just flop down on the floor against the wall. Okay, we need to talk about this because I can kind of understand that you have removed all the freaking chairs from the hotel because you allegedly need more room for just that many people. But if the wall space is going to be taken up by exhausted people flopping down on the floor, why are there not chairs? Seriously. Why? Why are there not any chairs? I don't know how to explain this to you when you are standing for 6 hours straight and you go, my legs are exhausted, and you want to sit down and there's no place to sit down. Now, one of the smaller hotels that is used during the convention still had all of its seating. They didn't take any of the chairs out. So you could actually just go into the hotel and just sit down. You could. And I saw more than a few hand people doing it. They kept all of their benches, they kept all of their chairs so that you could sit down. We still had issues with having to line up along walls, which was another thing that happened. That was on Sunday, I think, when I actually was in the signing line to get my copy of White Knight signed by Jim Butcher. There's just, you have to line up, and you're just standing there that entire time. And you have to get to the location that you want to be at way ahead of the scheduled thing so that you can be sure that you can take part in the scheduled thing, because otherwise that might not happen. Like the author signing for some of those authors were only happening on that day. Jim Butcher was also taking part in panels and stuff that took place over the weekend, but like the actual author signing for him, I believe his son was there with his own works, and there were a few other authors. and kind of including a botanist that I kind of wanted to check her out in her book that she had, but I just wasn't able. I didn't have time. I really wanted to find time, but I just didn't. Because we also needed to get back to the vendor hall on Sunday too. Because by then it was well into the middle of the afternoon, and the halls all close at 7. And Sunday was literally the last day, so we had to kind of get over to the vendor hall, and stand in line for another few hours. So again, I was unaware that you were literally not going to be able to sit down and rest in between times like that. There were a lot of people there who were pre-prepared with these weird button stool. They literally look like giant buttons when they're collapsed, but they unfold to create a little stool. And I'm not saying that I have a couple of those sitting in my cart, but I do, because we may not be able to go back to Dragon Con next year, but we are plotting the return of Dragon Con, and we will be prepared. Not that we weren't prepared for Dragon Con, but there were certain aspects that we were not prepared for. Not being able to sit down anywhere was one of them. I was not prepared for that. And being someone who was in the hospital a week before the convention was kind of uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. So it's not that there weren't actually some disability advocates and some ways that there were literally ADA advocates that were there that could get you passes into things that you would not be able to stand in line for there. But I was not disabled to the point where I was going to need that. But by that same token, I also could not rest. I couldn't. And that was a problem. So, yeah, I'm definitely buying a couple of these collapsible stools. Because at some point I'm going to be a cosplay medic. I'm definitely just going to be a cosplay medic. That is going to happen. I am, because I actually carry around a cosplay repair kit with me, but to actually have like rolling luggage with stuff to repair people's cosplays with, honestly, that just, the idea of that just gives me so much joy. So, and that was just an issue. So you stand for hours in line to get your badge, and then I stood hours in line after I got my badge to buy the only place that you could buy Dragon Con merchandise on Thursday, literally opening day of the con, was in the same hotel that you bought your badge. So you actually had both of these lines interwoven with one another in various locations, which is kind of insane. The badge line is already being woven around the hotel building itself outside. And you have another line for merchandise that is being woven around on the inside. And it's caused a bit of chaos, seriously. I was genuinely not prepared for the length of some of these lines. And how to the ridiculous lengths they went to. Friday, when the vendor hall was opening, we wanted to get in line like an hour before the hall opened, we were not even close to the front of the line. But we were also not far enough back so that they basically turned a parking garage into a giant weaving line of caution tape and wet floor cones to create a giant impromptu line that instead of circling around the building twice would weave back and forth in the parking garage under the hotel. That was kind of insane. That was a little bit nutty. I almost can't believe how crazy that was. I would like to say something to the parents that have to have the giant wagons and like the enormous strollers for your children. What are you doing? Seriously. The walkways and sidewalks and lines are so narrow, and there was someone who had this just enormous wagon for their kids, and it was practically a playpen on wheels that I'm not even sure how he got through the door. I'm just like, why do you even think this is appropriate for this space? If there was someone in a wheelchair, they would not be able to pass on the opposite side of this enormous wagon. There were just things I wanted to say to people that were like, we are in a convention that is extremely crowded, that has extremely narrow walkways to begin with. And we have to have two lines of people passing one another, moving fairly smoothly. And your enormous device is just making things worse. Speaking of making things worse, the other thing I was utterly unprepared for, because I knew that Dragon Con was very much a party atmosphere. I was prepared for that. I was not prepared for how easily alcohol is able to be procured in Georgia. I was not prepared for that. Alcohol is literally everywhere. It is actually everywhere. There were people who had like those like hydration bags for backpacks filled with liquor. And they were just allowed through. They were just allowed to just get abs, like basic. At one point, somebody there is actually just an issue with apparently alcohol poisoning that happens at the con, and I'm like, gee, I wonder why. There's alcohol literally everywhere. There is not one floor in any of the convention spaces, in any of them, in which you cannot buy, in which you could literally buy an alcoholic drink, and in some cases a bucket of an alcoholic drink, and I wish I was joking, but they were serving drinks by the bucket in every single bit of convention space. And it was 10 a.m. in the morning, and the couple in front of me, the woman was already spilling her drink drunk. Like, she literally was doubling over, giggling, and the drink in her hand just sloshed out and onto the floor. I was not prepared for that. I was legitimately not prepared for 10 a.m. drunkenness. I was not. Um it's I was just absolutely floored by this. That just the alcohol is just so free flowing, and you know that there is just like, because there, honestly, there was only one place that where an actual server of alcohol asked for an ID. There was a very specific, like, I think it was called the Viking Meadery or something like that. They were the only ones I heard ask for an ID. They were the only ones. I am so used to here where I live being asked to supply ID to purchase alcohol that I literally was about to flip up my brand new ID that I received just days before going to Dragon Con. Because you never know. That and the guys just told, it's like, okay, $18. And I'm like, you're not gonna ask me for my ID. You're not gonna ask my age? Like, what? Mind you, I am well over the age of 21, but I'm just like, there are children here who are drunk. I can guarantee it. There were children there that were drunk, and I'm not okay with that. I am not a teetotaler. I have a nice bottle of whiskey sitting in my kitchen that is almost empty, and I'm going to have to replace it soon. I wanted to replace it with Dragon Con bourbon, because I actually at a different merch location, I actually asked, how do I, if I'm interested in buying, because you couldn't actually buy the bottles of the liquor there. You had to go to a liquor store to buy the bottles, even though you could just buy drinks by the bucket load, but an actual bottle, now you had to go to the liquor store to buy that. So I went to the website of the distillery that made the Dragon Con bourbon. All because there was also a Dragon Con vodka. I don't like vodka. There is only one vodka brand that I've actually been able to drink and find pleasant. Vodka and I do not get along. I think it tastes like turpentine. I think it tastes and smells like turpentine. No matter how many times people tell me, oh, no, if you get a really good vodka, like, it doesn't. No, it does. It tastes like that. It's just disgusting. There's only one brand that I have ever found that actually tastes like what it's supposed to taste like. And so I wasn't even interested in the vodka, but I was interested in the bourbon. So I went to the website because I was curious, because I was going to look up the distillery and find out what liquor stores carried it. They're like, check out our announcement about the Dragon Con bourbon here, and it's a click to their Instagram page, and they're like, oh, we put the Dragon Con bourbon for sale in July, and it's sold out. Sold out. Before Dragon Con actually happened, they put the Dragon Con bourbon up for sale in July, sold out of it almost immediately, and went, whoops, I guess we're going to have to make another batch. But you could pre-order. And I'm like, no, I'm not pre-ordering anything. This was supposed to be a piece of merchandise that we were supposed to be able to buy for DragonCon at DragonCon. And you do not even have it because you put it up for sale 2 months before. It was at the very beginning of July, by the way. They wanted to put it up for sale like for 4th of July weekend, as opposed to fricking Labor Day weekend. And they sold out, and they're like, whoops, we don't actually have any for people to buy, I guess, but we could put you on the list. No, I have been standing in line at this convention for hours every single day. I am not going to be put on a wait list for a product that I may or may not even like. Okay? Do better. Because you legitimately lost a sale. I was going to buy it. I was going to happily buy it. I'm like, well, I'm almost out of whiskey at home anyway. I'll just buy DragonCon bourbon because it'll be fun. Nope. I'm good. Apparently, I'm just gonna restock it with something at home, I guess. I was angry about that. I'm still peeved about it. That I just wanted to buy the things that I wanted to buy. So I did do a lot of shopping while at DragonCon. Finally, after standing for hours, because on Friday morning, the reason why I stood for hours Friday morning was because there was a very particular vendor who was at DragonCon who I wanted to see, because I don't like buying clothing online unless I know specifically what I'm buying. So Lolita Collective was there. I do buy Japanese alt fashion. I do have quite a few Lolita dresses at this point and outfits that I have purchased largely from the Japanese secondhand seller, Wonderwelt. I can't do that right now because all packages to and from the United States are now being labeled with tariffs, and the tariffs are just getting so confusing and so wildly unpredictable that a lot of countries have just stopped shipping to the US. And because Wonderwelt uses DHL, they have also just stopped shipping to the US. So I literally cannot buy Japanese clothing from Japan. I have to buy it from stores that already exist in the US. So that's what I did. I went to the Lolita Collective and I spent a lot of money there. I'm not going to say how much, but it was a lot. I bought 2 dresses. I bought one dress was from a alt fashion designer who largely just does kind of gothic runway-ish styles these days. But they were heavy into Sweet Lolita during the late 20-aughts into the early 10s, and I bought one of their Sweet Lolita dresses that's covered with carousel horses and carriages and castles and cookies and strawberries and sweets, and it there are unicorns on it, and it is basically it is my entire aesthetic that I look for if I'm looking for something absolutely sweet and cute and pastel, and that it was just everything rolled into one. And I wanted to buy that dress. I said, this dress is going to be mine, and I am going to buy it. They had this dress for years, and nobody pounced on it, and I went, nope, mine. Mine. And so it is mine now. They also had quite a bit of Lady Sloth merchandise. Lady Sloth is a brand out of, I was going to say Spain, but no, I don't. Lady Sloth isn't out of Spain. I'm thinking of Violet Fane, I think. I think Violet Fane is out of Spain. They've gotten back into the well, they did get back into the Gothic Lolita thing. I actually haven't checked on them in a little while now to see if they're still in business. They were on hiatus for a while, for a hot minute. Who knows? Maybe the shipping issues with America have caused issues there too. But Lady Sloth, shipping for Lady Sloth, along with just buying direct from them, just was honestly, it was just cost prohibitive for me. If I can go to a store that is already in existence and buy that article of clothing for $200 and not pay an additional $50 for shipping, I'm going to do that. And although a lot of people go, buying at conventions is expensive, don't do it. If nobody is overcharging for their product. Their Tea Turtle was selling all of their t-shirts again for $15. Like everybody, all the enamel pins for at various sellers that I have been eyeing online for a long time, but never purchased because, again, shipping nightmares. They're all exactly the same price that's on their online stores. Nothing is being overcharged, and in many cases, if you're paying with cash, the tax is included in the price. So if you're paying $200 for something and you're paying for it in cash, you're paying $200 and that's it. The price includes the sales tax. I'm not going to say whether or not that might be different if you pay via credit card, but I've found that as long as you've got cash, you are spending a lot less money overall. I couldn't do that with Lolita Collective just because if I had that amount of cash on me, I would not have been able to fold my wallet. So that I actually had to use a card for, but I bought so much there. I didn't realize that Naoto also had a booth there, at least not at first. Someone at Lolita Collective mentioned Naoto was also there, but it didn't register with me. My brain was just like, really cute, spooky things. And I did pay cash at Naoto. At least I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. It's small h period Naoto is technically the name, but you don't pronounce the honorific, right? It's kind of like X-Holic, the manga and anime. You don't actually, the three X's and then holic, you don't pronounce the X's. It's just holic, apparently. So I'm guessing it's just pronounced Naoto. They are largely kind of a gothic-y punk uh, seller. I literally went there for accessories. I wasn't looking to buy any of their dresses, although they're like robe kimono things. I was very tempted to buy. They were so beautiful. But I'm just like, I already have so many kimono robe type things. I can't I cannot in good conscience buy these. So I did find a bonnet there that I almost started crying over. Because apparently one of their new fashion lines is called Black Dragon. And it was Dragon Con. And they did have the Black Dragon cage dress there. I saw it, but I'm not a fan of cage dresses. I'm just not. I mean, they're kind of nice to look at on a runway. I personally would not want to wear them. So it was kind of nice to look at from afar. They had the Black Dragon bracers, but I just kind of like, I can buy bracers anywhere, guys. No offense, but I need something else. And so there was this tiny little pile of bonnets in the corner, and I went, oh, my precious. So I bought a Black Dragon bonnet that I actually went to their website to take a look at, see at what they literally had in their Black Dragon clothing line, and the bonnet was not listed anywhere on there. I don't know if it is like a store exclusive or was a convention exclusive or what the heck, or they just made some and they're like, we're not all that thrilled with them, so we're only gonna have like a handful of these things and just, you know, sell them in person to whoever buys them. But I love it. I love the damn thing. I'm totally dropped $70 for that. I bought so many enamel pins. So many. I was also kind of surprised how very little there was. So much K-pop Demon Hunter talk and cosplayers, and there were so many. There were even like derpy furries, which was great to see. I took a picture of like one of the best derpy furries that I saw. I'm like, oh my god, they had to, all of these cosplayers had to pull these looks together in only within the last few weeks. And it was just kind of amazing to see. Especially the partial fursuiters who had to make the heads and the tails and the paws and everything and with almost no time whatsoever to make them. It was kind of incredible. And there was almost no K-pop Demon Hunter merch, which, given how quickly you can have turnaround for merchandise these days, I was a little surprised. I found one vendor who had a Sleepy Derpy enamel pin with little Demon Crow, and I bought that because it was so cute. But I bought, Midnight Syndicate had a booth there that I had to stop at because I'm like, I need to buy new CDs. They didn't have their new album out yet, available for sale, which was kind of a bummer. But I did buy one of their newer albums. And they also had enamel pins, which I was like, I squeed with delight. So I bought stuff from them. Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. The very, very goth perfume scent manufacturer who is based in Arizona was at Dragon Con, and I said I'm definitely buying stuff from them. Because they literally had like D&D player. They had an entire line of D&D player scents, or character class scents. Literally paladin, rogue, bard, and they also had like chromatic dragon scents. They didn't. I don't really remember there being any metallic dragon scents, but there were chromatic dragon scents. I don't remember which dragon I bought. I bought one of the dragons as a linen spray. I didn't buy a lot there because I was sniffing all of the DragonCon exclusive scents, and I'm like, I don't really like any of these. No offense, guys, but I don't know. There's something about them that I just don't like. I actually kind of wonder if somebody messed with them, because when I bought the thing, when you buy from them, you get a ton of freebies. Normally you have to pay for like sample things from them, but they like dropped like 4 or 5 sample tubes into my order, along with pins and stickers, and it's just all kinds of neat stuff. And one of them was the rogue scent. And I remember sniffing the tester and going, I don't like this at all. I was expecting the rogue scent to be, earthy and like, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but that was earthy and leathery, and like I wasn't expecting that scent. But then when I got the tester and I sniffed that, it was really good. It had clove and cinnamon and oh god, the leather again, sandalwood. I love the scent of sandalwood. And it smelled so good, and I'm like, why didn't the tester smell like this? Oh my god. I realized that I have a feeling that their testers had been messed with, because none of the scents that I smelled good. So I actually wonder if maybe somebody just kind of screwed with their testers, which was unfortunate, honestly. But I bought stuff from them. I bought some original art from a comics artist. I bought the David Bowie graphic novel. I bought like a 3-in-1 novel trilogy, futuristic apocalypse thingy. Not really apocalypse, but kind of, but not really. I'm just like, okay, you've sold me on it. And God, there were a couple of other things. I wanted to buy Pirates: A Graphic History, but that table had like a line of people in front of it, and I could not wait. I was looking for other booths, so I was like, I'll come back to Pirates later. I never did get back to Pirates, but I wanted to so badly. Shoot. There was the OneRing.net. Got a t-shirt for the spouse there. I went into the art show. I bought an enormous enamel pin from an artist in the art show. As you can imagine, artists that were in the art show, they did not have cheaper items for sale. There was literally an enamel pin artist who had these just absolutely giant, gorgeous figure pins, and I went, that dragon, I need to own that. So I did actually buy that from the art, from the actual, not Artists Alley, because Artists Alley was also kind of like also our Author Alley, which was like the top floor of the vendors hall. but the art show was in a different location that had the fine art artists. So there was that. I bought so many enamel pins. So many. I bought so many Pokemon. I got an Alolan Ponyta. 2 Vaporeon pins, 1 shiny Vaporeon, 1 like regular Vaporeon in underwater scene. That was absolutely gorgeous. I had to have that. I bought so many enamel. There were 2 different Dragon Con enamel pins that I bought. There was the one that was like the standard Dragon Con logo, and then there was another one that was like a green dragon. I actually bought an actual Pokemon. There was a posable, not Dragonite. Shoot. The middle evolution. My brain is not functioning now. I've been talking for almost an hour and a half, and I have not played the game yet. So, Dragon Con was a lot of fun. I was there mostly for vibes. I was not there to do a lot of things. The next time I go to Dragon Con, I think I would actually take some time to look at the schedule properly. Say, okay, I want to do some gaming. Here's when I can do some gaming. And do that. As well as kind of have stuff to do during the day when I'm just not standing around in freaking lines forever. So that honestly, even though I had issues with Dragon Con, I still had a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. And I just enjoyed vibing with all of my fellow nerds and geeks and cosplayers and squealing with delight over all the Mikus. I was Hatsune Miku for a day. I intended to be Miku more that weekend. Unfortunately, one of my ponytail clips just snapped. And I didn't really have time to deal with that. I was not prepared for one of my hair clips to utterly just fail. So that's a thing I'm going to have to deal with. I still actually haven't dealt with taking all my cosplays apart and putting like the wigs back in the wig bin and stuff like that. That's still something I need to do. But that every Miku that crossed another Miku's path would be like, it was exactly like the Barbie movie where every Barbie just goes, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, hi Barbie, but it was Miku, and you just kind of squeal with delight. It's like, Miku, hello Miku, hi Miku. You just like Miku, like every Miku just squealing with delight at every other Miku. There was a Hajibi Miku that I saw in line at the vendor's hall. I wish I had found her again. There was another Miku that I wanted to see again, who was dressed in Jaden Animation's complete Ari suit, that like the tech Ari suit that just was. I honestly, I wish I had been able to order. I could not though. I literally didn't have the funds at the time. She was wearing the Ari fit, and I was just like, I love your Ari fit. And I've never seen anyone do a double take before, but apparently we actually talked later. The next day we were actually at the same event, and we talked for a little bit. I was the only person that actually took note of the fact that she was wearing Jaden Animation's designed clothes. I was the only person that recognized it. And she was so happy someone got it. So, okay. So seriously though, if you see someone wearing something that might be potentially obscure, that maybe only you might actually understand out of an entire crowd of people, thousands of people, say something. Just be like, "Oh my god, I love the thing. I love the detail in this thing." That you will make their day. I'm not even joking. You will absolutely just make their day. Just say it. Just be like, "Oh my god, I love blah blah in your character blah blah from the episode blah blah and when they were doing the thing." And if when you see something that might actually be a little obscure like that, just be like, "I recognize and I love it because of that." You will make somebody's day. Honestly. Just do it. Don't just be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say something, and just say it because it might actually make somebody's day. So, Dragon Con was good. I had my problems with it. It's not anything that can't be dealt with in preparation, except for maybe the drinking. I again not prepared for that.